Mr. Hawkins, I'm back.
Oh, good evening, and hello.
Hello.
Last evening I was talking to you about the Miami Book Fair
Oh, yes.
that's taking place in Miami, Florida,
Uh-huh.
from the November 16th to the 18th.
Okay.
And there's a street fair admission on Friday, November 16th. It's free. Saturday and Sunday, November 17th, 18th is $10 for 13 to 18-year-old, $5 for those over 62, and $12 for those under 12 years old. I'm sorry, free for those under 12 years old. It's taking place at the Miami-Dade College, Wolfson Campus, 300 Northeast 2nd Avenue, Miami, Florida. Okay, my reason for having these evenings, I think, is to introduce myself to an audience that I have not previously addressed. I've been pushed to this by a number of people, including a wonderful, wonderful woman, a beautiful wife named Salena-Hawkins, who said, listen, and you know what goes after that. Come out of the shadows. She suggests I tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into something about the books. This won't take long at all, and it'll be practically painless.
It usually is.
I'm a graduate of the Wax Writers Workshop, which was established by Bud Schulberg in 1965 as in the aftermath of the Watts Revolt, the Watts Rebellion, which was not a riot, as some people would like to say it was. It was not that. It was a revolt against the inhumane treatment that African Americans have suffered in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Greenville, Mississippi, you name it. And the picture has not cleared up yet. It's still being muddied by people being shot unnecessarily and unarmed. But that's another story. Coming out of the Wax Writers Workshop, the first incidentally, I have 30 books, published books, and 10 books in the pipeline. The pipeline in this case is a sort of a vortex that is gradually pulling the books down and out, and it looks like I may have 2 coming out before the end of this year. But first, I'd like to start saying something about the first published book that I had, which is called Ghetto Sketches. This is an ancient copy, as you can see by the small format. The reissues and reprints have been in a larger format, something like this.
And you were talking about reissuing it again this year or the early part of next year?
Probably this year. Probably this year. Or if not this year, certainly early next year. I want to talk a little bit about the Ghetto Sketches, as I did yesterday evening.
Oh, Ghetto Sketches, it's been used in the school system, I understand.
Let me talk about that.
Okay.
The book had been used in several curriculums, including the latest in the curriculum by Professor Justin Gifford at the University of Nevada. But prior to that, almost after it was soon published, or a year or two after it was published, it was used in the curriculum of my mentor, friend, and teacher, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, who has since passed. Dr. Margaret Burroughs is the woman I give credit for really pushing me into the writing life. She was my high school teacher, and she's responsible for creating the DuSable Museum of African American History in Chicago, the first such museum in Chicago. She meant a lot to many people. She taught in prisons. In any case, she was my high school teacher. She was one of these people who wouldn't take no for an answer. So I said yes, and she pushed me. The Ghetto Sketches came out of it. I had an idea coming from the ghettos of the South Side, and I was born on the West Side in Chicago. It was a West Side that it would be hard for a lot of people to imagine now, because then it was almost, it was a third world country unto itself. 1150 Washburn was made, you could have imagined that you were living in Accra, Ghana, or Lagos, Nigeria, or someplace, because white people were not a part of the scene. The neighborhood had been formerly Jewish, but when the white flight took place, it only left the residue of a few white people in the neighborhood. So,
did you live in a house or?
Ghetto Sketches?
No, did you live in a house when you were there?
Did I live in a house?
Yes.
Well, I didn't, as a matter of fact. When I say ghetto, I really mean it. And ghetto, the West Side Ghetto does not encompass houses. Interesting that you asked that. No, I lived in a basement. I lived in basements early on because that was the cheapest part of the house you could rent. The first floor might be, a step up, second floor, another step up, and lo and behold, you might even wind up at the third floor.
It'd be kind of dark and damp down there, right? In basements?
Well, let me just tell you what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I'm trying to bring it out to you.
Okay.
The basement was where we lived with the rats, because that's what that was. That was their place, and that's where we shared life. The Ghetto Sketches is the story of a neighborhood. So there were no people who were homeowners or anything like that on the street. Everybody had his little crook, his cranny. There was the slums. I decided to do a story about a street, Washburn Avenue, with this block we lived on, from 1100 block to 1200 block. I went up one side of the street and wrote about all the things that I could see happening on that side of the street, crossed over and went down the other side of the street and wrote about the people in the houses, and it's sort of if you put yourself on a slow treadmill, it would be like that, going from the northeast corner and going all the way down to the southwest corner, then crossing over. And
you said that it reminded you of some story that you had read, similar to about a neighborhood. The idea of writing about a street or a neighborhood up and down. It was some book that you had read that made you.
I think it comes closest to being something like Dylan Thomas's Under Milk Wood, the Welsh poet, who wrote about living in this Welsh town. It has that similarities. I think some other people have done that too. They've taken themselves to little communities and giving you some idea what it was like. The Ghetto Sketches encompasses a lot of good and a lot of bad. I think people who have never had that kind of experience of living in an authentic ghetto, think that everything is bad there. And it's true that a lot of things that are bad, but what I remember is a lot of warmth, a lot of love. People were very supportive. For example, I started writing when I was about 8, and when people found me sitting behind this coal stove down in the basement where I lived, scribbling, writing stories. I don't know what I was doing, but
therapy.
Yeah, I just I've been listening. I have 3 wonderful storytelling uncles and a very hard storytelling father. And after listening to them, they used to joke about it. They're from Mississippi. They used to joke about it as a time to tell lies. All right, let's hear your lie now. Come on with it. And I'm listening to the language and what the lie was about, and I started making up my own lies. And the people who saw me doing it didn't know that I was writing about them. They had no idea what I was writing about, period. But they were supportive, So, oh, boy, writing again. The Mackerel Street Library was not too far away, and when I discovered that I could actually get a card that would enable me, that would allow me to take books out of the library, I was home free. That was a part of being in the Ghetto Sketches. And I'm calling them sketches because the total nature of the place could not be encompassed in anything other than sketches. I mean, there were situations that were so deep that it would take a 300-page book to just deal with what happened in one room, one evening.
What are the 3 most memorable characters you would say in Ghetto Sketches?
In Ghetto Sketches? Off the top of my head, let me just name 2. I'm thinking of a couple of thoroughbred dope fiends named Bam and Baby June. Bam and Baby June. They were world-class sprinters. I mean, these guys could run. They were world-class sprinters. I would give them the 400-yard dash, to anybody. And I'm saying world-class. when they talk these days about opioid addiction and so forth, they were very avant-garde. They were really out there before. But Bam and Baby June were comedians as well as drug addicts. They called themselves dope fiends because they recognized that they could become fiendish if they didn't have any dope. They were funny, tragic, but memorable. They had a way of talking, whereas I'll try to do it a little bit. One of them would start talking, "Hey, Bam, remember the thing we was doing the other day, man, about..." June nods off. Bam takes up, "Yeah, brother, it was a thing. It was like, it was almost where we wanted to be." And then, they would catch each other. They were like a married couple.
Okay.
They were so into each other. I don't know what happened to them, but they were just 2. I often think about Reverend H.E. Tilley. Reverend H.E. Tilley, Sunrise Baptist Church. I went to the church from about the time I was maybe 9 or 10 until I was 12 or 15. I didn't go to become a Christian. I wasn't really interested in Christianity or any of that. I just simply liked the singing, and Reverend Tilley was a poet. "We have gathered here today. Not we have gathered here today to talk about the sins of mankind and how you may be saved. Because if you're not saved, you may go to hell. I'm going to say you're going to go to hell." Oh, somebody bring me a glass of water, please.
So that was how
he was a short, barrel-chested man. He later on became a really big-time figure in the Baptist church convention, whatever they call it. He was a friend. He was a neighborhood. He was a neighbor. He was like the moral. He was the moral thermometer of the neighborhood. The kind of person who would work on his church on Saturday. When he finished doing his hard work on his church, he would sit on the front steps of his church and have a beer.
Really?
Yeah, he would have a can of beer and sit there, and his neighbors would walk by. what you preaching about this coming Sunday, Reverend Tilly? Say, I've got a lot of things on my mind. I'm thinking on it. He was that kind of person. People were real with each other. My auntie ran a gambling house from Friday night until Sunday morning when she put on her church outfit and with the little.
Her church outfit.
Yeah, it had admiral's fringes or something.
Right. She ran a gambling establishment, and
she was.
All right.
She was a deaconess or something. I mean,
all right.
Everybody had their place. Mm-hmm. No one was put down. We were all in it together. Everybody knew that, so there was no, holding your nose up at somebody because they did so and so. Hey, if Lulu was turning tricks down at the end of the block, that was what Lulu did.
There's no homophobia or.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. I think about a guy named Mayflower. Mayflower was gay. He was so gay before his time that he probably could have promoted gayness and he would have sold. People didn't make fun of him. They didn't do anything. He was that's the way he was. We couldn't afford to become greater than thou or higher than thou. We were all in it. We were the garbage heap. We were the last hired and the first fired. We were black and underprivileged. I grew up under a political situation in Chicago where Mayor Daley, the mayor, he was so bigoted and prejudiced and racist that when Martin Luther King was killed, he was in Florida on a vacation, and he came back, got off the plane, and said, "What the hell is wrong with those people? Didn't they get their checks?"
My.
It was a dismal situation. The Ghetto Sketches has all of this and more. And the only thing I'm going to say to you and to those who might be checking this out is it's worth reading. It's worth reading. In the days to come, in the evenings to come, I'll be introducing you to more of works by yours truly.
Well, I know I enjoyed the characters because they seemed so real, like they were going to jump out of the page and come into the room and talk to me, and so I really appreciate that.
I like that.
Thank you.
Well, I hope there are many sitting behind you who may join you.
Oh, they're supposed to be quiet. So yes, I'm the only voice besides yours in the room.
See you tomorrow evening?
See you tomorrow evening.
Okay. Ghetto Sketches.
Ghetto Sketches.
I like that.